Hello and welcome to the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I'm your host, Matt Belair. Today's guest needs no introduction. He's been on the show many times. He is a Native American elder of the Mi'kmaq people, a mathematician, engineer, and very fascinating person, my friend, David Lonebear Sanipass. David, great to be with you today. How are you?
Good, Matthew. And how are you doing today? It's a beautiful day here today, nice and sunny. I think it's uh, 43 degrees, so it's above freezing, and it's a beautiful day. And how's everything out that way? And how's that little one?
Little one is great, and it's starting with the coronavirus chaos. No toilet paper. It's weird feeling in town. People are losing their minds. The stress and fear is up there, and I feel like it just magnified. From a couple days ago to now is so intense, and so I know we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and maybe you can just share a little bit about what you want to talk about today.
That's funny how the world works. We have pretty well instant world events going on right in front of us on Facebook, and all the different things are out there that we can get news probably within 24 hours what's going on in the world. And sometimes that's pretty scary. I was in Home Depot yesterday, and that couple was arguing and fighting over toilet paper. I thought, oh, gee, that's weird. And the person in front of us dropped his gun because in Maine, you can carry law. You can carry a gun without any license or like that. And he dropped his gun. It's like, oh, And the woman goes, oh, you won. So it's weird because I think I was just looking on some of the research. Anytime this has never happened in this world that we're starting to shut down schools and being scared. And a lot of us are scared. And I've been getting messages from communities in the world, and a couple of scientists and people that are wondering what the heck is going on. I think that what we should talk about today is what is a virus, and what is a pandemic, and what is going on. I mean, you go on Facebook, and Facebook is crazy about this because it's news. This is how they sell things, and they work off your fear to sell things. So be very careful what you watch and what you really believe. So we'll try to shed some light on that subject today, and I'm open. Our questions are open. If you guys have a question today about anything that's going on, I would try to answer to my best of my ability, because my personal page, my messages are crazy. So, but the world is crazy. Yeah, we're just proving it. So.
Right. Yeah. And I'll ask, I know Jacqueline is around too, so I'll ask her to monitor the comments, because this is shared to a lot of different pages. So it's hard for me to look at those different pages and all the comments if people have questions. And so try to send her a message. She'll be monitoring it. And so the first question I'd like to ask is, you, as I understand it, were trained by over 600 elders. This included science, math, engineering, physics, biology, chemistry, and all of these different things. And I've heard you say before that when you were in Canada, that people would ask you questions, and they would ask you questions about medicine and health and all these different things. And so the first thing I want to ask you is, what is your credibility or training in this? Because people, like you said, there's a lot of things out there. We have doctors and understanding these things, but you've had very interesting training. And as I understand it, people in your tribe would go to you and ask you these questions. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about your training on these things, because I've heard you say some very fascinating stuff before, and studying plants and how long that took, and very peculiar things that were really in depth. So can you speak on that first?
I will try to cover some of that area. A lot of it has to do with me, and I don't like talking about me a lot. I've been trained in some of the medicines, and people misconstrued that because I'm a Native American. Oh, you're trained in Native medicine. Yes, that's part of my training, but I also was trained in regular medicine too. Between what you think of doctor, I don't consider myself a doctor. I don't have a thing on my wall saying I'm a doctor, but I do know about those topics. I know there's a lot of you out there that has questioned that with me. That's fine. You're welcome to question. But part of understanding what spirit is and where we are in this world of spirit, that we have to know where we come from and actually how the body works and things like that. So, people think that I'm a medicine man. I'm not a medicine man. That's a whole different area. I do know about medicine. I have studied it, and the elders have. When I say elders, then it go. People are picturing Native American elders sitting around the fire or something, and talking about medicine and things like that. I've done that, yeah. But I also talk to regular doctors that are elders. I'm very fascinated in chemistry. I work in chemistry quite a lot. If I'm working in spirit, I'm working in chemistry because the body itself, it is a chemical mix of different chemicals that makes us see and hear. And then that has a lot to do with spirit. And spirit is part of chemistry because spirit is part of the electricity grid that's out there that we are connected into really finite connection. So in some of that training, I'm trained in chemical engineering, electrical engineering, and then I can just keep going on. Everything you can possibly think of that they thought it was they taught me, and hopefully that was a good student. I've been doing that for a lot of years, and I'm still doing it today. I was a little bit rushed to get here today because I've been in my workshop working on different things. Right now, I'm working on a water machine. I'll kind of most of the water machines out there that you heard that they'll work on a filter system. They filter out most of the contaminants out of different areas of the world. But there's some heavy contaminants that's really hard to get out of the water. And I'm working on that with a centrifuge water machine. So I brought one of the parts with me. I work on the engineering. This is one of the parts to the water machine. This fine engineered. This has to be a certain tolerance to this, and I'm making 9 of these in the machine. This one here is compressed aluminum and copper together. You can hear it ring. It has a certain vibration to resonate water to get some contaminants out of it. That's quite a complicated thing, but that's part of engineering that I do in chemistry. Why did they teach me that? Is that I think that in our day and age that we mistrust scientists and we mistrust engineers because look where we get ourselves now. Part of this coronavirus is because we didn't pay attention. I kind of looked at it as much as I can, and people said, "Oh, that's a manufactured virus." That's not a manufactured virus. We have thousands and thousands of viruses around us and inside of us. Sometimes if we look on some of the viruses, there's more deadlier viruses out there than the coronavirus. But we don't pay attention to that. But the reason why this what's going on, the reason worldwide scares because of this thing, of our cell phones, that we get news 20 times faster than 30 years ago. If you look in the history, and I have been looking in the history in viruses and pandemics, we hadn't had very many of them. But they just kind of breeze through our civilization, and we forget about it and go to the next problem. But some of my other training is basic engineering, welding, understanding metals, metallurgy, different things, electrical engineering, a lot of the stuff that engineers know. And I use all of those in my science because I don't know that I'm the greatest scientist in the world, but I do work at it, just like everybody else, that we are on that precipice of discovering new things. And what that discovery is that, that we don't have to have deadly viruses out there. We have technology to kind of understand it more. I know that looking at the numbers and what was going on in this world, we are scared, and us guys, we won't admit it. No, I'm not scared. It's just a virus. I see people, because I'm usually in Home Depot or one of the hardware stores looking to buy parts and things like that, and I see people are scared. This is, people say, oh, yeah, we say, oh, it's the beginning of the end. Well, we beginning of the end 10,000 years ago. This is a new day, a beginning for all of us. But how we look at things, if we all look at an elephant and when a foot away from it, we all have different descriptions of that elephant. We wouldn't have the full description because we're not talking to each other in this world. And I've said that before, that part of understanding what viruses are. We have a virus in the computer, and the computer shuts down and doesn't do what it's controlled. Is this virus controlled by the government? No, I don't think so. If it was, then it'd be one government. But and again, you go online and you can come up with all kinds of statistics out there. So I'm going to stop there and kind of talks about myself. But so I'll stop there. And what is your question? I know you're in Toronto.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And I'll just share for people who might be new to your work. You've been on the show before. You're, like I said, a very fascinating individual. And when you go to your talks or you listen to the podcast, some of the stuff you talk about is pretty mind blowing. And so I showed up in person and I was with you in Maine for a summer, and I rattle it around in my mind. The stuff you're saying is like, you come from a totally different culture and a total different history. And to me, that's intriguing. And so I'm listening to some of these stories and I'm thinking, well, if he's telling the truth or if he's lying, his science shouldn't work. If you're making it up, your science shouldn't work because it's either engineered correctly or not. And what I do know is you put balloons 800,000 feet into space with Project Bright Star. You've got the 3-pole magnets. You had an electric bike that went 40 miles an hour or something, and people in Maine watched you kind of cruise around on that and had a tier capacitor. You spoke about a sun house, which was an advanced greenhouse, and you said it could grow vegetables faster and bigger and more nutrient dense. And when you had an opportunity to build that, it worked exactly as it did. And so because of all these things, we're still friends. And, I'm still watching you kind of, do these projects and people question. And you've always invited scientists. You've asked, you said, I would love to speak to more scientists. I'd love to speak to more mathematicians and work together on some of these things. And you've always had an open invite. And so I'm curious to where the limits are with what you're sharing, because I've observed you do it with basically no resources and very, very limited help. And so that makes it even more impressive. And some of the technologies you spoke about, like these healing technologies, we need community, you've said, and we also need a little bit of help to engineer them. And so the first question I'll ask is just around this virus, because people are very afraid. It's something that I've never witnessed before in my life. It's really dawned on me today and yesterday. And I don't know if anything like this has happened. It probably has in history somewhere. But because of the internet and because of mass communication, this type of fear and maybe hysteria and paranoia is really rampant. And, you know, my first question is, what do you understand about the coronavirus? What should people do to stay healthy? What I've looked at is that if you have a healthy immune system, you shouldn't die. What is a pandemic? All of those questions, I guess we'll start there.
Okay. Well, it's a virus. We have viruses that's on us right now. We have viruses out there. How our body takes care of it is going to be crucial. But how do you take care of your body? And I've been talking about this for years. That you know, if you smoke, quit smoking. If you drink, quit drinking, because that's the kind of triggers up the immune system. And I know there's a lot of stuff out there that now that marijuana is legal, everybody's smoking. You're dropping part of your defensive system when you smoke, because your body's going to deal with that. At least quit smoking for a month until this gets through. Try to walk out in the air. Try not to be around too many people. Exercise as much as you can. If you don't exercise, you're more apt to get a virus because your immunity system up there. And you control your body itself, and people don't realize that if you don't want a virus, just keeps it write it down. Don't want a virus. What are you going to do about it? You can sit there and play on this machine or play on your phone. But it's like I said, you want to be scared of your wits. Get online, and it will scare the hell out of you. So, but it's like anything else. Most of them, and I get disappointed with some of the organizations that I spoke with. Spreading fear out there is most how people see things. Fear. I tell people fear is abbreviation. It's a false evidence appearing real. We do have a virus, yes. There's and people say, oh, they just made it up and things like that. Well, yeah, but I have enough sources out there that realize that it is real. It's coming, and it's. I just listening today that where I am right now, they had I think a case of here where I am. Am I scared? No, not too much because I kind of know what a virus is. Do you have enough toilet paper? Probably not, so I probably have to go argue with those people and fight over toilet paper. Well, there's always the Sears Roebuck catalog, if they still have that. But it's like anything else, is how we deal with that, how we deal with the virus itself in the community. Where we are, in my son's place, they closed school for 2 weeks, and that's smart. That's smart because most of the children are carriers. They don't usually, their body's strong, so they're carriers, so they will bring it home. So that's kind of good. That's smart. Enjoy the being with your kids because part of it is life. How we handle things out there, I think, is pretty crazy because I know that what's going on now is just the tip of the iceberg because we did this. That God didn't do this to us or anything else. We kind of did this the fear factor, but if we didn't put the fear factor, it'd be just a virus. It'd be just another virus. Is there a cure for it? There probably is. Your body will. The last the 5-10 years, we've been breaking our immunity system down by washing your hands too much and using the sanitizer too much because our body works on the elements. Say, okay, there's a bacteria, I should fight that bacteria. But if you don't have any bacteria on you to fight that, you must well have no immunity system. And some of us don't. And I wish that I could tell you more about the things and have activities. If you're healthy, that's great. You're going to need some protein because part of the protein, part of the virus that you have, you need protein. And you can probably find that in beans and stuff like that, vegetarian or vegan. But again, your body needs to be able to fight this. And again, I have a lot of people texting me, oh, what, I got this new medicine. The silver, what is it they call that silver thing?
Is it like colloidal silver?
Colloidal silver. Don't put anything in the body. Let your body fight it because people don't realize that part of that is that you need your system up to par because there's no magic medicine out there. And people say, no, I use this. But again, it's like, this is your life. This is other people's lives at stake here. And you want to be able to give them the best information possible. Depend on the body itself, on your endurance, being able to breathe, be able to walk, And I'm kind of that area myself because I'm in the same predicament. I am in that. I'm in the same category that we need to be exercised. We need to be and if you are physical fit, that's fine. Yeah, that's great. But keep doing it. And I think that a lot of this is it's just riding out the wave. That's what it is, and riding this out and being as calm as possible. Of course, all viruses, the common cold always takes lives. Something preys on our weak. So be strong. I tell people to be strong. And the pandemic, if you look, do your history here, about what a pandemic is, how to stop, they give you simple things. Yeah. I see somebody with 2 cases of hand sanitizer. Holy frig, what is it, going to bath in it? Common soap will help. You have to be careful of the alcohols in the sanitizers. You don't want to be too clean. You want to have enough so your immune system can handle this. Just common soap. I've been working on a, um, a, a, um, a disinfecting soap. I was going to show what it contained. I'm working on the chemistry right now that it will be good for your body and it won't get rid of the good bacteria that's on you. So, and I'm still working on that. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks. Right now, that I have about 30 things that I'm doing and not getting anything done. I'm working on 30 things instead of one. So.
Well, you shared a lot right there, and my thinking with this right now is like the pandemic of the numbers, and the potential of the virus spreading and how many deaths will happen. And I was just thinking about the context of it because I was looking up how many people die every day of starvation for a reference point, and what I found was, and I need to do more research to make sure the numbers are correct, but it was 25,000 a day on what I had researched, and
Yep.
9.1 million people per year. And
Yep.
so these are measured results that are happening continuously, and you don't hear a peep from anybody about
Nope.
people literally dying because they don't have enough food. That to me makes no sense. That's not a natural death. Having diseases, well, I don't know how natural it is, but it seems like a reasonable way to die. Back in the day, whatever it would be, 1200s, 1300s, for however long, they would say, we'll make it through, God willing, because people will get wiped out from these viruses. They didn't have modern medicine. And so I think it's an interesting opportunity to kind of look at these things because we have these mass numbers of death and we're not saying anything about that. We're kind of okay with that for some reason as a culture, but there's only, I think, the last one that I was looking it up because a friend of mine is really going for it on Facebook, and so I I was like, well, the last time I looked, there wasn't that many deaths. Like, there's a lot, and any death is sad, but 7,000 so far compared to 25,000 per day, every day of starvation. And so
Yep.
again, no death is ideal, but if I look at the comparison and say these people are dying because they don't have enough food, and these people are dying from a virus, and the susceptible ones are older and had a long, full life. Again, not ideal, obviously, but that kind of subject matter, the kind of intensity, the kind of collaboration and mass hysteria and knowledge being like, hey, do you know 25,000 people are dying each day because they don't have enough food? What kind of solutions can we put together here? How can we solve this as a species? And it also gives a great opportunity to talk and open up about peace. And that's something you talk about a lot. And I think it's the next big civilization upgrade to actually have peace on the planet so that we start to collaborate. I love the idea of Team Earth, Team Canada with Team USA, with Team Russia, with Team Korea working together, so we can find these potential solutions. And so that's kind of a rant. Do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I know the statistics. I do the statistics every week on how many people die of starvation, wars, accidents, car accidents, cell phones blowing up in their pocket, things like that. And as humans, I think as humans, that sometimes that what's in front of us, we don't really care because we could use this machine to have peace tomorrow if we really look for it. But there's not enough people listening. I know that when I go speak and things like that, if you look at any of my things, I talk about the same thing what you just said. People choose not to listen. They would rather I'm not going to apologize today on a vibrational thing or healing or a crystal that heals and things like that, or people that have psychic abilities, things like that. And where are they now? If we are truly healing, get out there and feed the people that's hungry. Heal, help us to heal. Prayers only go so far. And I get really upset about this stuff because I'm up against UFO people. I'm a UFO. I'm a research person in UFO, but we would rather do a million views on a fake UFO over Israel, over the rock, and so that's true. That's got 7 million views. We're looking for 7 million people that look in one direction. And once this and again, I'm going to say, once this pandemic goes away, we're going to get right back on our old horse again and do the same thing. People are going to be starving. People are going to be fighting each other. People are going to be messing each other and doing all the stuff that they were doing before. Look at 9/11. 9/11 should have gave us an understanding that the world is changing, but but we blame it on president. We blame it on certain individuals. This is our fault this time. This is our fault. You can't blame this on the government. You can't blame this on a conspiracy. We put fear into our own selves. I look online and the cure for this, and I'm going to tell you right up front, is compassion, happiness, and kindness. Because the body doesn't, the viruses don't like, because when you have kindness and compassion happen, that's a different that's an actual different vibration. Your immune system doesn't go down; it goes up to fulfill that with another community or another person. But we don't do that. We don't do that. All we do is complain about all the different things. But like I said, you said there's people starving at this very minute. There's people that actually need help, but like I said, we're so ignorant to that subject because when we get on, we talk about ourselves and we don't realize all the other things that's going on in the world. And I get flack about stuff like this, and I'm getting sick of it. It's like, yeah, we can fill a stadium full of sports people, and all those people paid $190, $200 a ticket, and then they can draw for a team that's throwing a ball back and forth, and we can tell statistics about those players and who they are and how much money they make. You realize when we go to a big sporting event, we're watching millionaires play, and, because they paid big salaries. So we can, who's doing all that, is that that's our ego. That's what we need. That's left over from the Romans, the Colosseum. Remember, civilization does what it wants to do. You think about Rome, when Rome is at least 500 to 1,000 years. And what did they had a Roman Colosseum. They killed people. They killed animals. We are still doing that. But we don't pay attention. No, it's we're the hierarchy here that we are. We'll kill bulls for sport. And you look in Spain, the bullfighting is still. Still watching, and people go to it. There's Christian, there's spiritual people, there's Buddhists that go to these things, and still, our world hasn't changed. Wake up, this pandemic, wake up. It's time to wake up. Let's do something, Let's fill a Coliseum of 100,000 people and talk about peace. How do we do that, Because I've been trying to do that the last 10 years. I think the most ever we get in one place is 500 people, and most of them left because this was I didn't portray what they wanted. They wanted Native American talk about I'm not sure roaming with the buffalo, I guess, and being one with nature. I think that a misconception of both of us in different civilizations, different people is what's going on today. Wake up, folks! This is a kicking ass. Let's go do something. If you are listening to this, say something. Chime in, do something. Say you're for peace. We've tried this back in the 60s and 70s. We had at least 1 million people interested at one time. Where did they all go? Did they get old? Does peace get old? But if we had a Celtics game or something like that, we'll sell out. Maybe we can have a Celtics game and talk about peace at the same time. Have the football game after. Sorry, I just get upset about that because our values all screwed up, you know. We talk about peace and all the healing method. We don't want that, honestly. We don't even want peace because there's no money in it. My talks when I go out there into the world are mostly free, and nobody shows up. I think in London we had at least 21 people show up, and we put $6,000 into plane tickets and hotel rooms and stuff like that. We are looking for the people that want peace. Apparently, you guys don't want that. You guys want crystals or something. My apologies again. You know, we talk about the healing points on the body. Where is that now? Where is that now? You know, and I'm not one of these told you so people, but more is coming. This one of 27 other things that's coming. That could be good or bad. You know, I tell people to look up. I've been telling them that for 10 years. Put the cell phone down, look up, find out who your neighbor is. We can't. We can't even go to the bathroom right now. We have to carry a cell phone. You know, or before we go to bed. You know, oh, dear God, help me. So, LOL. My apologies, Matthew. You probably lost some viewers.
Well, that was a that was a good rant. One of the questions that Jacqueline forwarded off was, how do we know the deaths are real? And I said, well, do they mean the deaths from starvation? Do they mean the coronavirus deaths? And now what's happening in this world, it's becoming more challenging to find the truth because there's so much out there. There's YouTube researchers, and it can get very confusing. And so I'll just put that question to you.
Wow, are we that ignorant? You know, I get statistics back from all the reserves in Canada and in United States on drug deaths, suicides, all the different things. Is that real? Is somebody lying to me on that? They're real. Some of my cousins, some of the people that I know. I've been in New York. I've been to different towns. I just come back from Los Angeles a couple months ago, and I'm pretty sure that some of them deaths are not counted. And yeah, the deaths are real. Get out there. If you want to know these deaths are, get out there. Find out what's going on. Stop thinking about this stupid thing. You know, this will lie to you. This is the prophecies that this magic box that this is will lie to you. It will give you what you want, and this is what the part of that prophecy is now. This magic box. It's a part of our prophecy. Is about magic box. Look it up online about what it is. He says that this will take our children's brains, and the rainbow monster. And guess what? It's doing that right now. We're some of us that don't care. It's like, oh no, freaking deal. You know, my kids are kids, but you know, even my kid, my son, the little one, they're taken over by this thing. But we don't see that because we just see what we want to see. The deaths are real. Some of them are made up, maybe, but I've ministered to somebody in New York that was starving, and that person, as much as I could try to save that, we brought her to emergency, and she died of starvation. Even with they've tried to feed her before. That's real. That's effing real, you know. Quit believing this stupid thing. Get out there. Everybody get out there, you know. More is coming. You know, we're the ones that are doing this. Yes, we are too much on the conspiracy theories, you know. I see the one about Kennedy and all that. Kennedy's dead. And however that, then today is today. What's tomorrow? You know, what are we going to do? You know, we can figure out with all the conspiracies going on. That's what leads us into not believing some of the things, because do we believe all the conspiracies? You know, flat Earth, all the different things, round Earth, square Earth, you know, triangle Earth, you know, but we don't do anything. We just go, I'm going to make sure the water's good before I got there. I don't do that every day. When I go to speak, you know, I just spent $9,000 on trips the last couple of months, and that $9,000 was supposed to fix my teeth. And then, you know, part of the speaker that I want my teeth. That's why people see I don't have any teeth. The implants, you know, it costs a lot to get them fixed. But I'd rather go out and speak to the community about what's going on. You know, all this stupid stuff out there. And when I came to this world and looked at all the stupid, really, you believe all this stuff? Get out there. I tell people that some people say, "Oh, I want to be a student." So, well, get out there and do something and come back. Do your own research. Don't believe me. Look into the world. Look to your neighbor. Look to the side the other neighbor. I see people the last couple of days being crazy. And this is not even. Is anybody else hungry that's watching this program? Probably not. We've fed. I ate breakfast this morning. There's people dying of starvation, drug abuse, because of what's going on in this world. We lose hope. When we start losing hope, we start losing belief. When we start losing belief, we start questioning the world. We start believing that the world is not good. It's not a good place. I'd rather be on this world than 150 miles up, because there's no air up there. The world is good. We're treating it badly. But I can still breathe. I can still walk. I can still understand what the Creator is. I can still teach. You want to wallow in the mud, that's fine. You need to get out sometimes and see the world. And yes, those deaths some of them are real. Ramping today, I guess.
Yeah, it's a day for rants. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of interesting and important topics, because one of the things in my research and getting out there and traveling and talking to different people is very important for understanding. And one of the things I came across once was what was going on in China with the organ harvesting, and that's been hundreds of thousands of people through forced organ harvesting. It's a real thing, and I actually couldn't believe it at first, and that's incredibly horrible. And then with a different organization came across human trafficking. I didn't even know that that was a thing. And the numbers on that, they say it could be as high as
Crazy.
600,000 kids a year going
Yep.
missing. And I know it's actually a problem in the Native American culture. And so when we're looking at this coronavirus, everybody's losing their mind. These other things like starvation, 25,000 people a day, 9.1 million a year, 600,000 people plus into human trafficking rings. What the heck? That's got to be very organized to do those type of numbers. And so why don't we as a civilization care about that stuff? Why don't we talk about that stuff? And so with if the coronavirus gets to killing 500,000 people, that would be a lot, and that would be awful. But we have these other documented horrendous things happening on the planet that are proven, right? These are just theories, like the coronavirus could do this, and maybe it does, and that's probably not great. And we have these things that have been documented that are awful, that are continuously happening, and it's kind of happening with our complicitness. And I think I can't remember I looked up the statistic. I have to look it up again. Maybe the viewers can look at it, but look at how many people live on less than $2 a day. I think it's in the billions. It was
It is.
an extraordinary number.
Billion five.
Yeah, so that's incredible. And so those things, it would be amazing to find solutions for, to begin talking about these things, to really invest our time and our energy. And if you think about that energy of fear, and I've used this example of politics, if we had people like hate Trump, or in the state, I'm Canadian so I care less, but they hate Trump, or they hate this person, they hate that. I'm like, if all of the United States took 10% of that energy that they're always spewing hate at whatever political person it is, and focused on one solution, be it their healthcare, be it education, be it anything, they would transform their country. They would transform the world. And so I'll leave it at that. You want to add on to anything?
Yeah, I think that with this machine, we can put the people are doing that right now, put their comments and things in there, and I get this quite a lot. They say, well, maybe you make a resonator and give the blueprints away. Then most likely the wolves will find it, and they will start making money up. And some of my technology now, people have been taking it and making money from it. Do I receive any royalties from it? No, not a cent, not 1 cent. So when we talk about kindness and we talk about Trump and all the different things, we can say all we want, because I wonder if there'd be change if there were a president, because being a president or being in that limelight and that responsibility, you can't satisfy everybody. You know, we talk about Republicans and Democrats and independents, and you know, and we say, oh, we put another president in there, but again, you're going to get the same thing you got now. Between all the presidents of the world, that this has always happened. You know, that we don't like it, and we don't like the way it's going. We can run the country better. Well, do that, and we do have the power to do that now. But we decide to go on this machine, and I said, I'm going to come up with a, like here, a podcast and change the world. People can shut this off, no problem. I can guarantee this will be forgotten in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But it's like, again, it's to be somebody else on doing something else. They said, no, this here. And they talk about the psychology of it and things like that. And again, I'm not selling books. I'm not selling you anything today. Hopefully, maybe some toilet paper after. Somebody talked to me and said, what's Native American toilet paper? I said, Native American toilet paper is birch bark. So there's plenty of trees out there. So, but like I said, there's we can talk about this, but doing something, that's a whole different thing. And I think that's why it's hard for the Star Teachings to get a foothold here, because nobody's getting paid anything. And I know that that some of the times that we have events and we have other people say, well, can we have a psychic in or a card reader? That's not what we do. That's not what we do. I'm not putting them down, but that's not what we do when we do this. And people say, oh, your organization would be there, but then our organization would be like everybody else. Is that we have to do something different. And this is kind of what's going on now. It's like in this world that the world needs to do something different. And this is a great indicator that what do we do different? And people are looking for direction, you know? And I'm going to use my native language to express what that is. And you might not understand this because I'll be speaking my language. Get off your ass and do something in this world. You know, that's Micmac. So.
Oh,
And
well,
I think that's the hard part, because people, I'm not saying you're lazy. That's not it. That's not what I'm saying. Is that if we are getting on this machine and commenting on something, and again, go do 3 acts of kindness and change that. Change those thumbs into energy, you know, or them fingers into energy. Go do something, you know. And like I said, I'm a broken record, if anybody knows what that is. Is that the last 10 years, I've been doing it over and over and over and over and over. And people say, well, you know, it's not my way. So that's fine. Star Teachings is a way, but it's not all the way. So.
Well, thank you for all that. I had a very clear comment I wanted to share, and now I've forgot it at the end of your rant. And I think it was along the lines of action. Oh, that's what it was. I went down to Guatemala to learn from Carlos Barrios, who's a Mayan elder. We both know Clifford. I wanted Clifford to meet you because I knew Clifford independently. I was like, Clifford, I met this Mi'kmaq elder. He's saying some very interesting stuff. Can you please talk to him and let me know if this is actually indeed what you guys are taught? Because this is some wild information. And so you and Clifford have become friends, and watching you guys talk is extraordinary. Clifford is also an engineer and a scientist and incredibly brilliant. And, you know, when I went down to Guatemala to learn from the Mayan elder as well, one of his main things was, you know, spirituality today is action. We need to take an action. And you've always said that. And I really like that. And whenever I'm interviewed on podcasts, I always say, you know, when they give me the opportunity, I say the best spiritual teaching I've ever heard and learned is to do 3 kind acts a day, to go out of your way to do it, and to resist the urge to tell anyone. And it takes that thinking and that idea of doing something good, and it makes it real. It brings it into the reality. It actually does something. And I remember in one of your first teachings with me, you said, you know, your electrical engineers are more spiritual than most of your spiritual teachers. And I said, why is that? You said, because they're actually doing something. And so, and so I thought about that because I have some really great friends that are handy. And whenever I need help, I ask them and they go over and they help. me and they improve my life. And then I think to myself, I'm like, how do I actually help people? I was like, I try to help their mindset to think more positively. And that's good and that could be helpful. But then I also am now challenging myself to do more. What can I do to actually help you? And in observing you for a couple years and traveling with you and watching what you do, I watch you help a lot of people in lots of various ways. You sometimes do their, like, you fix something, and you're always able to fix whatever the thing is that they have a problem with. You somehow know how to fix it. And you shared a story once about when you were young and you went to this elders gathering, and they say you're supposed to be special and this prophecy child, and you don't like that idea. And so you had to talk to these people, and as they were talking to each other, you basically like cleaned out the wood, and you were doing all these things, and they were just talking. And if you think about, like, just even the mothers of the world and how much they actually do. And I know that the Mi'kmaq culture from you is what is it, matriarchal, and
Yep.
all the things that they actually do. And it's like, we don't put any kind of reverence to it, like the cooking and the cleaning and the taking care of people and the listening and the compassion and the kindness in action, I think is a really beautiful thing. And do you want to comment on any of that? Those were just my thoughts.
Yeah. That I know that the people say, "Oh, I want to come and see you," and some people from Germany or something like that said, "You're very wise, but being wise and having wisdom is two different things." As you know that I always have wise comments. Do I have any wisdom? I don't think so. As much as I want wisdom, a lot of it that's earned. You have to go out and do something. And I, I think of you because you said that you're looking to do something. True as information as possible. I tell people that. When we get up there with conspiracies and share those conspiracies, you know, that's some of it is spreading non-truth, and I see that a lot. And I try to tell people that it's important for us to understand what truth is. Is truth aliens? Where are they now? We have a pandemic. How are the aliens helping us right now? How is all the conspiracy theories, all the different things that are helping us right now? And some of it's scaring the hell out of us because they say, "Oh no, the Earth is going to end." Yes, it's going to end. It might end tomorrow. I don't know. It might end 10,000 years. It might end 7,000 years. I don't know. But we have to understand that we need to, again, you hear this again, live our life to the fullest every day. That means kindness to yourself, kindness to your family, kindness to your mate, kindness to your community, compassion. That is the hardest to understand because several weeks ago, maybe a little less than a week, my puppy Magnus was acting differently. And I was very concerned with Puppy because he's my service dog, but he's also a family member and a very good friend. He's been with me since he was a pup, and oh my goodness, he is slowed down, limping. He couldn't jump in the back of the truck. He's only 7 years old, and as a scientist, I said, well, I'm not, and there's some medicine. I looked at him, and I really couldn't figure out because I'm close to him, so I'm gentle with him. I'm not gonna hurt him, and I try to be as compassionate as possible for him. And I think Jacqueline said take him to the veterinarian. So, well, never thought of that. So and didn't sleep that night. I thought of cancer of the dog, all the different things of these animals that could have, maybe something wrong with his bones or something like that. So, and I didn't sleep that night. And Jacqueline and I went to the veterinarian, and I'm all concerned. Oh my goodness, my heart was beating. This is my best friend. He's been with me since he was a pup, and he helps me unconditionally every day. He asks for nothing, maybe a scratch and some food, but he's him. He's a great dog. He couldn't ask for a better dog. So I took him to the veterinarian, and I'm in the veterinarian place sitting with him, and I could feel my heart beating. Said, "Oh, I'm going to get the worst news as possible and everything else." And they bring him in and examine him, and did some tests on him, and waited outside and went back in for the test. And I'm worried about the test, and, and the doctor talked to me about what his diet, because I'm very careful with his diet so he can get enough nutrition for his energy, stuff like that. And the doctor says, gave me the bad news. What was wrong, Mac? Says your dog is fat. He's 10 pounds overweight. And this is a high energy dog. He needs his energy. So he's the reason why he can't jump back in the trap, because he's got 10 pounds more on him. And the reason why he's sluggish and tired, because he's tired. And with adjusting his meal for the winter, because he eats differently than the winter. I was giving him too much calories during the winter so he can survive. And because my schedule is so busy this year, that usually every other day we go play frisbee or go puppy stuff. Or Jacqueline and I go to the beach and you run and stuff like that. And a week before, that Jacqueline and I and the puppy went up to the beach, and he had a great time. But he ran, but he slept. He couldn't. He was sore for 2 or 3 days after that. And that's when I thought he was sick, but he was just fat and needed more exercise. So I've changed that a little bit. He's getting more exercise. He's not eating as much. He's got an exercise diet. And he's on a diet. He doesn't like the diet, but he's on the diet. And he's so the fear itself that made me different. It made my sight differently. And my vibrational self was different because he's my friend. That's kind of what's going on out there. That we are afraid what's going to happen. What you do this right now? I looked at the numbers the last couple of weeks. This is really dying out, the virus, but we're amplifying it by the news and all the deaths and stuff like that. You know, I would worry be more out there getting hit by a car. And it is a virus, and take precautions on it. I'm not saying get too relaxed, but it is dying out like a virus does. A virus usually has 75 to 80 days to peak, and of course, a virus life is very short unless it can reproduce. That's part of the reproduce.
Well, you shared a lot there. What I wanted to kind of go back on was the idea of your own healing, and you mentioned that a little bit. And Wim Hof, they injected him with a disease or a virus, and he used his breathing and his mindset to help. And then I've had Dr. Edith on, Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan. Shout out, she is amazing. Get her book. And just an amazing individual. And she talks about the pillars of health, and it's breathing, diet, exercise. All of these simple things, going out into nature really helps. Some of the training that you had me do is just go out in nature. And when I was doing it consistently, I was like, holy, I didn't even recognize, like maybe 3 or 4 days would go by and I'd be on my computer and I'd be doing all my work. And then I'm stuck in this cycle. I didn't even go outside. It's like, oh, a real thing, a tree, it's just these basic things. And so the fear can give us an opportunity to look at our life. And a lot of times people have to wait until it gets really bad. They get really sick. They have a problem. They hate their job. They stress out. Oh, stress was one of her pillars as well. And so, we can get to that space of thriving in our lives without so much pain first. And if you look at the planet, most people aren't thriving in their health. They aren't thriving in their career. They aren't thriving in their life. And I'm curious why that is. What prevents us from doing that? And we have that ability. We do have the ability to create miraculous healings. And I've had many people on the show that have done those things. And those were the main pillars. They had a clean diet. They started exercising and decreased stress and moved into you talked about how kindness, compassion, and happiness can help cure you of that virus or something along those lines. And I remember, I think I was watching The Secret, the movie, or something around that. I've always been curious about, how the mind can influence a reality. And there was an example of people who had cancer and they were given a year or so to live. And so what they did is they just started to watch a lot of funny movies. They started to laugh a lot. They started to enjoy life. And it turned out they're like, we've been living for 10 years, but we thought it was the end. And so by changing their way of life, their way of being, it was a higher vibration. I don't know how that works. I don't know the science of it. Um, I don't know much. I'll just put it that way. But it seems that the people who were able to do it, who were to overcome these diseases, they use those things, and happiness and joy and compassion, all of those things help. And maybe you can speak on that a little bit more. You talk about a joyful noise. So is there a reason, like, does that actually work? And if it does, how does that help? And the way that I frame it when I'm coaching people, or trying to help people in this, I say, with the virus, for example, I say, you know what, maybe the virus takes me out, and I would have no control over that. I've never had control of this. There's some sort of big spiritual thing happening, God, spirit, the universe, that I don't have control. When I'm supposed to exit, I'm going to exit. Doesn't mean I'm going to be overtly stupid, although I have been in the past with certain things, snowboarding and extreme sports, or put myself in danger, but I'm still here. But what I do know is that if something happens, that within my own power, within my own being, I give myself the best opportunity through positive thinking, through telling myself what I want, through prayer, through, engaging in the powers of the body. It's giving me the best opportunity for healing. If I say, oh, I'm going to, so often you see people are going to get the flu. They say, I'm going to get the flu. Then they get the flu. Then they're sick for exactly as long as they say they're sick, and then they get better. And I was teaching this in New Zealand when I was running snowboard camps, and I said, hey, he's like, oh, I'm getting sick. I was like, just tell yourself you're healthy and do a little meditation. Next day I see him, he goes, that's crazy, man. He's like, I'm not 100% better, but I'm better than I was, and I thought for sure I was going to get sick. That's amazing how that works. And that's just literally thinking a little bit differently. So I'm curious about the limits to this idea of our own power. And Wim Hof is a fantastic example of that, showing other people that it's possible for every single person. And maybe you can speak on that a little bit, taking our own healing back, using joy and compassion, and what are the limits, with Wim Hof doing these amazing things, with the Shaolin monks doing amazing things. What's possible for the human being to achieve?
There is no limits. I can use myself example in my talk said many years ago that I had a brain aneurysm, and I actually died for 72 seconds. My heart stopped, my brain stopped, and I came back. There's a lot more to that story, but through those after that, I lost some of my functions. I lost the functions to control myself to go to the bathroom, breathing. Part of the talking, as you notice, half of my face has dropped because of that brain aneurysm. And the doctor really said that, David, and he was, the doctor is very honest. He says that you probably have about a year to live. And at that time, that it's like a year to live. What would I do differently? And I'm sure that most of you guys had that diagnosis too, that you're still living. And and it wasn't because of the teachings. It wasn't right in front of me. That when you lose the function of your body and walking and talking, you have a pity party. Pity party is the most expensive party that you can ever be at because you're the guest. And for 4 or 5 years that I had a pity party, that I had 2 or 3 seizures or 4 seizures a day, that I lived in low income housing, so I had a little roof over my head, and I couldn't work very much. Anytime that I had a job or do something, I have a seizure, and of course, the customers didn't want you to have seizures on their property. So you could say my life was pretty bad, and I thought I only had a year to live. And I remember being in Portland, Maine, and me going down to the water. And I tell people, if you beside the ocean or any water, put your hands into it and wash your face and become part of that energy. And I did that that day. And take this with a grain of salt. That there was a person, there was something there. There was It looked like a human anyway. And that person had gray hair, a very beautiful old man, I guess, kind of long hair, uh, coat, and he was kind of just looking out to the water. And what I was getting ready for, and I don't tell very many people this story. That day, I remember that day, I didn't want 4 or 5 seizures a day. If you ever have a seizure, that's not a great thing to have because where I had my brain aneurysm, I had it up here, above the makes you talk, and I still have a problem talking. Before that, I was a good writer. I was going to write books, and I was real good at it. After that, I still can't put 2 words together in writing. But I was ready for that day. I remember. I think I still have the bus ticket. I bought bus tickets home to Presque Maine, and it was and then seizures is not. My dad was still alive. I was going to go up spend some time with my father and family. Then I was going to go to the mountain and die, honestly. I was just going to go up there and not eat and just die. And then I remember that day clearly because it was a little brisk day, windy. It wasn't too bad. And I went and washed my hands and because Presque Maine, we're kind of far away from the ocean. So I wanted to make sure that I bathed my hand in the ocean. And the old man started, I don't know what it was or who it was. Well, no, I take it back. I knew who it is now. And we talked and things like that. And I get to the point, he says, you going home, huh? I said, yeah, I'm going home the last time. He says, it's never the last time. And very distinctly, I remember him asking me, and I give that my talks, what do you want? And we think about that. I want money, I want fame, I want a new car. And at that time, I wanted life. I wanted a chance on this earth to be on this earth for a while. And this was probably 25 years ago, maybe more. And he says, why can't you have that? I says, I have a brain aneurysm. The doctor said I was going to die in a year, stuff like that. And now it's been 4 months since he told me that. I only have a few months left. He goes, what do you want? I said, and he kept on asking me that, and I was getting annoyed. He said, and then told him, says, I want to live. And he looks at me, big smile on his face. He takes his hands and he puts it on my face. And he shakes it. He goes, live. If you want to live, live. And I said, live? That's all? I said, yeah. But you got to fight for it as much as you can possibly fight for it. He says, you got to fight for it. If your head's in the water, if somebody's got your head underneath the water, it's a fight to have oxygen, to come out of that water and live. He said, then you will live. And I think that made something inside of me wake up, because when he shook me, it's like, who in your life tells you that you only have 1 year to live, 2 years to live? It's you. It's you, the one. And I can give you story after story after story that of people that once lived and still living today. Let no one or any spiritual movements or anything out there tell you what you should think or what you should do in what spirit is, because it's all open. We talk about Christianity, we talk about Buddhism, we talk about different spiritualities. It's all open. When we confine it to a book, when we confine it to some sort of ceremony, we're not looking up to the greater of the Creator. And I think in this message that I'm trying to give the world, I'm trying to tell you guys, put this stupid phone down, look up. This is a warning for us that we create our own fears and then live those. When that, whatever that person or where that person's from, didn't give me nothing. It didn't give me hope, didn't give me anything, but it gave me a reason to live. And when you have a reason for anything, you can overcome anything in this world. And you're a miracle of this day. If you're in this world, you're a miracle of this day. And you should celebrate that every day. Everybody thinks they're in a job that they're stuck in. You're in the miracle of this day. When you become 90 or 100 years old and you look back, you're going to wish for 1 second of that day that you were in that job or something like that. Enjoy this day. And you hear people talk about that. This book's written. Slap yourself the head. Enjoy this day. If I have anything to give to you, is to enjoy this day. Don't enjoy the fear. Don't bask in the fear. There's 100 things to get afraid of there. And I'm still living. Still have a seizure every once in a while. But like I said, when you put your head underneath it, we want that oxygen so bad, you fight for it. And that's what I do every day. I fight for this day, this miracle. And that's what it says in the teachings. It says if you want a miracle, then make it. Make it the miracle. And it's not about money. It's not about prestige. It's not about being famous. It's being satisfied for this day. If you want money, there's plenty out there. Go get it. If you want fame, it's the same thing. But again, it's be the miracle. And I think that's the important thing about this podcast today is being that miracle. We're in a pandemic. Fine, and then this is part of what my master taught me before the aneurysm, is that I didn't realize that we are our own medicine. We don't need any of the medicines out there because we amplify medicine. That if something is supposed to be aspirin, same thing, we amplify it. That is our belief that amplifies it. That we are in this today. Go out and do something. If you're near water, take your shoes off. I don't care how cold the water. Run around and scream. That's a joyful noise. Everybody thinks a joyful noise was a drum or a flute or something like that. No, you're the miracle that needs to do the joyful noise. When I first started teaching, I had people in the audience scream and holler. And people wonder, what are we screaming and hollering for? That is a joyful noise of life, of who you are. Do it today. Go out to the beach and scream and holler. Wake up your body. Wake up, because when you scream and holler, that goes into your ears. You can feel the vibration waking up all the antibodies that's in you. Make that joyful noise. Orchestra music and flute music, drum. Well, get it just a little bit, but remember, you're the one that operates the drums and flutes and all the different things. You make the noise first, then amplify it. It's even better when you have 3 people. That's because the joyful noise will come into laughter. When laughter comes in, happiness will come right after. Because it's part of what healing community is laughter. And George Burns said it. He's going to laugh until he dies, and he lived for a long time. And that's my fault sometimes. I get too much into this thing and science and everything, I forget to laugh. Get on YouTube, use YouTube as an energy source. Get on some comics get on some cat videos that play the piano. For some strange reason, I laugh my head off about those things. Or the golfer of golf, the guy hit the golf ball and he misses it. Then he tries to hit it again, he misses. Then he tries to kick it and falls on his butt. So I laugh my head off about stuff like that. Make a joyful noise. The body, nothing else. The body. Sing. If you can sing so everybody can hear you, so you can hear yourself. If you can't sing anyway. Music's interpretation. Your interpretation is what it is. That's what helped people tell me. So, my interpretation of music when I sing.
You shared so many incredible things there, and at the end of it, what I was thinking was celebrating life. When people pass away now, people talk about, rather than going to a funeral, we're going to go to a celebration of life. And I think that what you're talking about is each day celebrating that you're alive. And how often of us do that, or wake up and or like, yes, I'm alive, this is amazing, I'm going to celebrate this opportunity for living. And maybe then you die the next day, and if you could go back in time, you'd probably be like, oh shoot, I wish yesterday I really celebrated being alive. really wish the last 20 years I celebrated being alive. And what you shared there is all very simple and practical, because I just had this guest on. His name's Eliyahu, and he works with billionaires and all these famous people. And one of he started to ask the advice of the billionaires. He's like, "How did you make $1 million?" Right? And the billionaire said, "You go out and you do it." And he's like, "That's all you're giving me? Is just like go out and do it?" He's like, "Yeah, you got to just go do it." And he's like, "That's what multiple of them said, and you've said that to me too. Is like it's making that decision and going out and doing it, and being tenacious." And you talked about wanting it, like wanting air. Like you need to go out and do it, like with vibrancy and with energy and with passion. And that's really it. That's the formula of getting to that. As far as interviewing all these different guests and looking at people who've achieved greatness, it was consistent action to in a direction that inspired them, and they had to go and create it. And he also shared something that I thought was really amazing. He's like, your happiness is going to come from the success you earn. If you are just given something, you're given the money, you're given the house, you might have happiness for a minute or so, but then you're not going to have sustained happiness because you didn't earn it. You didn't go out and build it and make it yourself. And I feel like being here on the planet, having an opportunity at life to build something that's meaningful is something great, something that we all have the ability to do and to go out and get it. And when you're talking about a joyful noise, it's funny because my daughter likes to yell at me. She's only 6 months, and sometimes she's not crying, she's just yelling. And so I'll yell at her, which is ridiculous, but she'll be yelling. And so I'll yell, and it kind of stuns her. And then all of a sudden we're literally just shouting at each other from across the room. But she then kicks her legs, and she absolutely loves it and thinks it's hilarious. And so, I'll be on the phone this morning. I was coming back from my cousin's house, and I can hear her yelling in the background, just using her voice and celebrating. And it's so beautiful and pure and hilarious. And we have that opportunity, and it lights me up when I do it. And to see this little girl so excited, and I think about people and how they live, and how many people live very confined, very depressed and anxious, very fearful, very overwhelmed, very all of the negative emotions, not thriving, not happy, not joyous, not compassionate, not grateful. And how do we get into those states? It's something I'm very curious about, and I don't know, but I think it starts with the decision starts to look at gratitude and make that own decision in yourself. I'm going to find my own happiness. I'm going to find my own compassion. I'm going to find my own passion in this world, and go out and get it, and commit yourself to that, because you have that ability. I think it's like a birthright. But we have to take it. We have to actually go out, and we have to do something. We have to take it. And so that's what I heard there. And there's a lot of people commenting. So I want to throw in some of these questions, because I think some of them are good. And so I'll kind of read a couple, and then you can answer whatever you wish.
Okay.
So it says, how can we share the STAR teachings to more communities? What is the most optimal way to share the frequency of the STAR teachings? How can we use this time of change, which is a great one? And I don't know if this is relevant. Can you cross-reference end of times prophecy with the Bible? I do know that you've said, and I saw a picture of you with the Dalai Lama giving him prophecy papers. That's very fascinating stuff. And Brian Francis has done some very interesting research about some of the things that are in the Bible with some of the Mi'kmaq history. And he's made some discoveries. He hasn't wanted to go too deep on that, but he's talked to me in private a little bit about that. So that's super fascinating. And I know that there's a Mi'kmaq connection with the Knights Templars. Very fascinating stuff. You've shared a little bit about that in talks. And the last one I'll throw in there, maybe you can answer quick, is are cylinder charcoal filters good enough at home, or should use something else? David
I'd
Lumber.
start with the prophecy, and I'd get the charcoals in a second. Um, Remember, prophecy is not written in stone. It's a suggestion. Usually, it's a suggestion of communities, how we started. Communities start and they die off, and we write about stuff like that. And I've read Bibles before. You can put similarities to the Bible to what we do now, but we're humans, so it's going to be similar. Can you imagine if the Bible said that we're all going to be happy? We'll probably all be happy. we believe and put our worth into some of this, and some of us put a lot of worth into this, the end of the earth and the end of times. But we are on the end of times anyway, and no matter what, because as humans, we're very naive on who we are and what we are on the earth. We don't want to believe in the higher good because we've seen all the evil that we can do. We talk about the Holocaust, wars upon wars upon wars, and if there's somebody going to be in there, says the war's going to win. And sometimes, if I told you the world's going to end 7,500 from now, would you believe me? Some will, but then some people says, "Where's your proof?" You know, well, proof is in the Bible. Well, I don't believe in the Bible. Well, maybe not. Maybe the Bible is part of psychology and spirituality put together. Um, we say that we go to funerals not for dead people, but for the people that's alive. And the people that passed on, we're the ones that have the problem. They're fine. They're going somewhere else. So, but it's like that. It's like we put all these different things into that stake into the prophecy, and we live our life in prophecy. Um, the Mi'kmaq prophecy says, "Live your life to the fullest." I already told you that on that. And the Copper Scrolls says that there's been civilizations upon civilizations upon civilizations. So probably in the sixth civilization, it says in the Copper Scrolls that we annihilated it, annihilated communities ourselves through technologies and other things, and that took over 500,000 years to do. We're on being the United States of the Earth, we're only 4,000 to 5,000 years old here, so we have some time left. And that a lot of that has to do with environment. We look at the environment now and seeing the ice caps melting. They melted before. They're going to freeze over. We had the big freeze over at one time of this Earth. That's not mentioned in any of the scripture, but it's what we are afraid of and where we're going. And again, I tell communities, live your future like it's yesterday, and you find yesterday is tomorrow, tomorrow's today. And by doing that, you can write your own prophecies. Change the prophecies. We could do that a lot. Change the kindness and compassion and happiness. That's what's in the prophecy. Are we going to go to the stars? Yes, that's in the prophecy, that we will go to the stars. Does it mention some bad stuff in the prophecies? Of course, I can come up with 1,000 bad things that's happening, but I try to concentrate on the good, because a bunch of you guys are concentrating on the bad things. I'll let you guys do that. But I just want to say that there's hope out there, there's spirit out there, that we are able to go into this future. Now, children, we want to think of our grandchildren, great grandchildren on this. Are we going to give enough hope here to bleed over? Because remember that we are of age here. Remember, we were children some of us anyway, we were children at one time, and we ran around the yard and did everything that we did. We didn't worry about prophecy. When do we start worrying about this stuff? Is when we are aware of good and bad, and we take the bad. And I think that's to me, that's sad for us, because we should concentrate on kindness and compassion and happiness. If we want this world to be better, uh, is make your words better. I understand that sometimes that we're self-prophesizing. That's why I don't like horoscopes, because they're self-prophesizing. They're not telling you specifically, but they're just going to tell you vaguely on what's going to go on. Can you imagine if you change all the horoscopes to all good, nothing crazy? And people are going to be hit by trains, cars die, all the different things. Change that. We need to be able to change that. On the filters, to try to get the filters that are, they call it concentrated charcoal. I know I've seen some at Home Depot and a couple of other stores. And if you have hard water, things like that, you do have softeners. Try not to soften them too much, because some of those minerals inside that the body needs. So.
Excellent. That was a lot there. The last thing that I wanted to comment on was changing the horoscopes. One of the things that would be amazing to see what would happen is if all the media, news outlets, television were inspiring stories, were somehow beneficial. When I was doing a lot of research on hypnosis and persuasion and things like that, it just talked about the idea of like priming the mind through story. And so when you're in Buddhism, they talk about mental nutriments. And so like, what are you feeding your mind? And so if you go down, and I did this, I went down the conspiracy rabbit hole, and it's very dark, and it was good. I think that's a part of the process to say, holy, maybe this world is not out for my benefit. I have to be careful of what I eat. I have to be understand that there are some dangers out here. That's step one. But then you got to focus on the solutions after. And so when I think it's interesting that, to give an example, if I say, don't imagine the American flag, or don't imagine a giraffe with wings soaring through the sky, your mind does that. And if I use another example and I say, don't imagine a little cute kitten, and then the little cute kitten gets his head chopped off, you're probably going to have a negative emotion from that, and you didn't choose to have that negative emotion. If I'm coaching people, I usually draw out that story a little bit more, and it's not good, because the idea is the body starts to create an emotion through simple words. And so, we're creative beings. We create here. We can influence our reality. And so if you keep taking in all of these things that are fearful, that are negative, that are frightening, your body is emoting those things, and you're creating a world with more of that in there. And so if the communication, if the media, if the magazines, if the news were geared to more positivity, I would be curious to see what would happen, because we would be putting out better feelings. And if you look at the um TV shows today, it's not just one murder show, it's a series of murder shows. Like at 8 o'clock on every single channel, it is somebody out there to murder you. And that's terrifying. And as an adult man who knows martial arts, can run pretty fast, and is pretty good at, fighting, you were like, okay, one of the things you suggested was go out to the darkest place in the forest and sit there. And so I did it. And I was terrified. And I was getting out of the car, and I was like, damn it, David. And I was like, why am I doing this? And I go, and this is forest just outside the city. No one's there. And it's because my mind is playing all these tricks, and I'm thinking about all these things that I had. And I'm just literally just trying to go from my car, 100 feet into the forest. And I'm sitting in the dark, and I'm so afraid. I was like, this is ridiculous. And so, it's because of those ideas. And over time, I'm less afraid now, which is nice. So it's important what we're ingesting in our mind. It's important, what we're receiving. And we do have this really fearful world, and we should be diligent with what we put into our minds, because we could be researching our passions. We could be building solutions. We could at the same time be learning something new, and all of that kind of thing. So what I wanted to ask you is that there's been some, you spoke about this as well, and I know that you monitor the earthquakes going around in the world, which is interesting, and you've spoken on that before. There's been earthquakes in Halifax, and you're also talking about unidentified aerial phenomena. They changed it from UFO to unidentified aerial phenomenon. We're working on a documentary right now that's going to share a little bit of the information from your balloons. And so that's fascinating. So I'm wondering if you can speak on that, and if you see anything coming from that field, because if you do look at the UFO world right now, and you look at the conspiracy world, it's on fire. We've got, we're talking about the currency reset. We're talking about people, escaping from pedophilia. We're talking about, the new government's coming in, and this is the positive thing, and the ETs are coming. There's all kinds of awesome entertainment out there right now. I never know. I'm super curious. And I saw this meme that I thought was hilarious. And it says, no wonder the government doesn't tell us about aliens if we're scared about this flu or something, which makes sense. So that's my question.
A lot of questions, but I can try to
Yep.
answer some of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
we are working on a documentary. I was just down to Area 51 months ago, doing some film down there. I think it's important that I'm not going to follow what everybody believes in what UFOs are. For some strange reason, they must have a button on all the UFOs to make them blurry. because every time you see lights, somebody sees lights, it's blurry for some reason. But we can take a picture of a cat, or take a picture of a rock star in a restaurant or something, but UFOs are blurry. Um, yeah, and the documentary is going to explain kind of what's going on out there. Some of it, pretty interesting stuff that we have. Um, Talking about living with green men, aliens, and gray, stuff like that. We probably won't get into that a lot. A lot of it, again, is hysteria, as how we see things in our dreams. But I think that what the real truth is, and I don't have the real truth. I have pictures, I have different videos, different things that I can explain what they are. They're not what you think they are. I haven't seen the Star Trek Enterprise quite yet, but a lot of the things that I film are not round. Some are triangles, some are different shapes. I can identify what the phenomenon is from ball lightning to lightning in the clouds, spurt lightning, different things, um, ion balls that forms in the atmosphere that looks like UFOs. And the reason why I can identify them because I have instruments on the balloons that detect the magnetic wave from I can tell what a lightning uh, pulse is from a distortion through a wavelength of a magnetic wave. So yeah, so I think a lot of that is going to be interesting. We're working with a couple of people right now on that, and I think it's important that uh, this hysteria that's going on then, it is hysteria. That it's going to calm down in a couple of weeks or several things like that. I think part of that is just not knowing, and we're grasping to things out there that, oh, this will explain it. It might, of course, if you, I follow the stock market, and the stock market, of course, we put worth into this because the stocks drop, the money drops, we lose money, things like that, and it's just how we see things and how we gauge things out there, you know, and part of it too is that not understanding all that. Some of us is pretty new to this. We've never had a pandemic scare. Well, we have, but we just didn't notice it. And everything comes to the surface. And then there's wolves out there that's going to profit from that. They want you to be scared. They want you to share. They want you to do all these things. And I'm kind of sad because if we are beings of consciousness, that we should try to help each other. Not scare each other shitless, I would say. And I know people that contact me are very scared, and they want to know what's going on, and they're willing to pick up guns. That's the scary part too. And we are supposed to be passionate people, but those organizations that's on this machine that, yeah, if I said who they are, they're encouraging the scaredness to do your research, get online, especially if it scares the heck out of you, someone's scaring you, of course, people will die, of course, people are always dying all the time. As we said in the beginning, do your research, how do we incorporate the STAR teachings? And again, because I want to do the podcast just on the STAR teachings and what that's about. But the STAR teachings is a place. We talk about the teachings. It is a place that we can view our happiness, our sadness, or whatever that we are in no judgment. I know that's kind of hard, and I know people have done this, but the teas are whole different. If you've been at tea, it's different. It's kind of hard because when you first get into a tea, it doesn't really tell you anything. We're not working off healing vibration. We're not working off the chakra points. We're not working with any crystals. We're not working with any, we're working with the human spiritual body, with nothing else. So with no contaminations or or anything like that, or feathers or like that. It's the purest words that you can possibly say in a circle. And there's a way to do it. The Copper Scrolls used to communicate in worlds this way, in community, in worlds and communities. When I say world, um, if you believe or not, if you don't believe, the Copper Scrolls says other worlds used to communicate with other beings this way. So if we are going to listen to each other, we need to know what the hell we're saying to each other. We don't. Um, I'll give an example. Somebody several weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago, that they wanted to get information from me. And I said, I need this. So I took the phone call. But for 45 or 48 minutes, that person talked about himself. And by the time we were done the conversation, that person forgot why he was contacting me, and the question was never asked. So learning to listen intently, spiritually, and learning how to really listen. And we don't. We don't listen to each other. The the star teachings, if we are going to communicate with supposedly um, aliens or anything like that, we need to understand how that is done. It's not what you think. It's not mind reading. It's not telekinesis, whatever that is. It's not sign language. It is listening to actually like. And I tell people, I said, you really listen to each other? Try to listen to a cow. Tell me what a cow says, or tell me what a cat says, or a deer, or a moose. And some people say, I'm a whisper, a deer whisperer. That's fine. That's being intuitive. We're not intuitive to each other. We don't shut up when something's going on. And it is a technology to listen. And as much as people have said, we have something to, you have nothing. Somebody says, I know about teas. You need at least to be in teas for 40 to 50 years to understand what's going on, because what is teaching us to listen vibrationally. And people say, I know light language. Honestly, for real. I mean, anything that's being able to transfer over is informational. I've heard some of these people with different languages. They say, I know the Copper Scroll. You don't, because you didn't go with the people that actually can read the Copper Scrolls. It's not something you can just put your hand over and say, I know. It's like I give you a challenge. If you think you can read this copy, get a encyclopedia, get a Mechanica, go on H, and tell me what's everything in that, and that's 2 inches thick. Tell me what everything is in there. That information. That's the Copper Scrolls. We have 30 encyclopedias just in one word. And anybody that comes to me says, I can read them. You can't read them, honestly. Tell me how to construct a resonator from that what you just did. Part to tolerance, to what the material is made out of, the tolerance of how thick it's going to be, what the resonance is. Nobody, I don't care who you think you are, you can't read it. As I said, if you can bring a encyclopedia to me, you tell me what's in the encyclopedia, I believe you. But most of the people that say that is like, no, let's be real about this. I'm ramping again.
It's excellent.
What I get tired of is that I go to these talks. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars, our own money, and people that donate some money. We go, and they don't listen. They don't listen to what the gift is, and and people walk out, and it's like, they don't come back. You say, you are looking for information. Stick around for a little bit. If you're a critic, get out there and do something. I have a lot of critics saying, these are stupid. Well, tell me what's better. Show me how to bring this world together. And when you see all the crap out there, honestly, I just get so frustrated. And this is free. I'm not charging you. And it has a value to it. It has a depth. It has something to it. And people want to say, well, you should do this or you should do that. You should come to hear what we're saying. I tell people, so you want this? Any worse? Put a value. Get in your car, walk, do something, and this is free. This is information that you can use. My apologies again.
Well, I appreciate that. I've traveled with you, and I got to see you speak at Dimensions of Disclosure. I've seen you speak many times, but one of them was a of Disclosure with Clifford, and watching you guys speak and listening to all of the speakers versus you guys is very different. What you're saying, the questions you guys ask are very different. You're like, why do you think that they speak English? You know what I mean? Why maybe they have a whole different level, and observing many different conversations on these things, yours and Clifford's, it just it it makes more sense what you guys are saying, and it's like a level of like knowing that's a little bit different. And so when you guys are talking, it's not like it's anything special, it's like, yeah, of course Canada Goose exists. It's not like this fantastic thing, but out in the UFO world, it's all this really amazing thing. But for you and Clifford and Carlos, it's like this is just a part of our history that we were taught. And Clifford talked about on the podcast when he was doing the I think it was the Sun Clan or the Heyoka, or forgetting what it is now, but he said that was the process for communication because you had to go through this whole thing and as a sacred experience. And talking about T's, that's fascinating because when I did the T's, which stand for time, earth, air, and space, I was like, I don't understand what the heck this is. So it's like I'm sitting in a therapy circle and this is something. And then after I did 10, I was like, oh, okay. Yep. I get it now. Very fascinating and very helpful. And I loved it. And they're so helpful. And you've talked about if there are these other civilizations that wanted to talk to us, it made perfect sense in that moment as a technology because people are not kind and compassionate to each other. It is, you've been teaching, I think you talked about kindness, compassion, happiness, the first three teachings for 3 years. And what I've observed in the community is I think that we're still learning it. I know that I'm still learning it. And I've watched people who've been in it for a long time, do things that are probably not kind and not compassionate and be very, just not those things in communications and actions. And so we're still learning it. And that's kind of that's the tease ideas. We've got so many different cultures on the planet. We have so many different languages. We have so many different beliefs. We have so many different religious beliefs just in the human species. And we can't even get along with people that look the same, that maybe have a slight view, and all of a sudden you're attacking each other. And the idea is like, hey, like let another person just have their view and you don't have to accept it, but you're going to be kind and compassionate to them. So what if it was something that you didn't understand? What if it was a whole nother thing? you know, us as a species, I feel, are very juvenile. We're very childish, and I feel like adults are that way. We're very afraid. We have these like inner child, and we have these beliefs and how we want to navigate the world. And so, if we can't get along with each other, how are we supposed to get along or understand something that is completely different? And it just makes sense. And so I did think that at the tease. I think it was at number 20. I was like, oh my goodness, maybe once we actually get it. And you've talked about tease doing it with hundreds of people, and I would love to see that. It just makes perfect sense, that we're all respected, that we're all teachers, that there's no students, that every voice, every spirit matters. Every person is equal in that space. And it's wonderful. It's a very beautiful idea. And it's something that your elders gave you and taught you and said, this is your path to peace, right? If you want peace, do a lot of T's, and it's very different than anything out there. And it's very, very simple. And so what I wanted to ask was, for using this opportunity now, everybody's looking in a direction. Fear spreads pretty quickly. When I look at the world in my research and some of the things I hear you say, it conflicts in my mind sometimes, saying, hey, David, look, we know that people are starving to death. How is that happening? What system is happening to allow that to happen? We've got human trafficking. These are systems in place that are happening, and I don't like that. And, we've got all these systems, and maybe it's governments, maybe it's secret societies, maybe it's, all these conspiracy holes. I don't know. I've been down them all. It seems like there's people connected in a lot of old money. Money is one of them. It's a bunch of baloney. If you look at money, it's not even real anymore. And the natives, you guys have had this worse than anyone else because of this. There's natural law, and then there's maritime sea law. So I have to go and have this fictitious birth certificate, right, to then pay a bill to a banker. And I could just imagine, the Native American people crossing the imaginary border. It's like we're crossing there. Now there's a man telling me I can't go here because we've divided it. And we're just supposed to be these natural species on the land. So it does seem like there are organizations, institutions that are preventing us and making it harder to achieve peace. So on one hand, I see if we work together, then that would not even be an issue. We need to work together. And just in the Native American alley too, because I've been going a little bit more over there recently. Is it true that it's 992 treaties and then
Yes.
990 are broken?
Yeah. Yes.
So that, and so one of the concepts that I've shared was that, yeah, it's one thing to oppress and try to create cultural genocide, which we've done to the Native American indigenous people around the world, but it's another thing to continue to try, right? So now we're in the continuation, not looking at all these things. You know, we know what's happened. So now there's a continued suppression of this. And how do we get to the space where we can relieve some of these organizations from that power, and people will talk about the new world order, the new money system, um, and all that. So how do we get to that space where these systems do make sense, where we have systems that are actually for benefiting people, for helping each other, for living in kindness and compassion and people's needs being met?
Yeah. A lot of it's educated, what they call a spiritual education. Um, I tell people start teachings is not right on about everything. We're not the answer. The start teachings is not the answer. Um, and people kind of said, "Well, aren't you part of the start?" Yes, but we don't want to be caught up into the religion part of the start teachings. You know, people say, "Oh, you know, that's a cult," and we have usually a cult. People have to follow it. We don't have enough people following to make a cult. We really wanted to. um, but it's like anything else. It doesn't seem like it's effective. When you first come to the STAR teachings, it doesn't seem like the T's are part of the answer. But we talk about talking circles and things like that, and you know, and that it's effective to a certain point, but it stops. A lot of the talking circles stop at a certain point. There's usually a viewpoint of one person in a talking circle, an opinion of the circle. Not all of them, but most of them. But as part of the teacher, because we have many teachers now in the STAR teachings. I'm not the only one. If you want to know about T's, our staff is very short. We have people that actually go out and do T's. We have some very terrific people that do that very well, and is being able to contact them and because if you want a T in your area, it's going to take a little while to set it up. It's not because the organization has to figure out which teachers to send out and things like that. But if you want T's, I'm going to tell you right from contact the STAR teachings, and I know they're pulling their hair right now. He said, "Dave, we're busy as it is." Part of the STAR teaching is that we teach teachers, and people don't realize that. But being part of a teacher or that organization, we can't sit down with you and say, "Okay, this is what STAR teaches about. This is what you should teach." It is a community thing. The teachers that want to be teachers, they usually go with teachers that are already teaching, and there's a time limit or time that you can spend with teachers going up to T's, learning how to do them, because we don't have a school that's short, and a lot of it is hands-on. You go out with the teachers, do the T's. There's certain recommended T's that you can do to become that teacher, but like there's a training process there. Find out who the teachers are. We have organizations, people standing by on phones right now, ready to take your call. So yeah, find out what's going on, because there's more that meets the eye here. Because this is not a simple thing, but it's a simple how we do it. And we can't do it without your participation. Remember, ceremony participation. And it doesn't matter what spiritual light that you like. You can be atheist, Christian, Buddhist. Everybody could do the STAR teachings and still have the same viewpoint. Our understanding of what communities are today and where they are, that you guys have asked for this, but when it's not what you think it is, then it's like, okay, we're not doing ceremony or burying crystals or something. There's organizations that do that, but we don't do things like that. We work mainly with the spiritual self, and I think that's the hardest to understand because what we're trained to do out there, look online, is from using sweetgrass, smudging, things like that. That is part of ceremony, but we don't do that in the Star teachings. Like I said, we work with the spiritual self. We're not against that. We're not against that. That's part of ceremony in some Native cultures. So, all Native cultures. But there's a way to bring it into your community. There's a way to bring it, and one of them is bring me in. That I start telling the stories of Star teachings and give viewpoints of where it comes from. I think that's the hardest part. And the financial end, I tell people that we need, just like you do, go to work. We need the financial ends, and we need the means to put gas in the car. You can pray all you want, and all you're going to do is be hitchhiking. So we do need petrol for and food and lodging and all that stuff. It's an organization. So you had another question. I kind of lost you there.
I forget what it was. I was just listening and thinking. I'll try to remember it. I know there's actually a lot of comments. So there's a lot of people on Facebook. Thank you for watching, commenting. Please share. Let us know that you're out there. Get excited about peace. Just even comment peace. That's nice. But I wanted to ask about maybe the Halifax event, and we've had to postpone that, right? But
Yep.
we're still going to do it because there's a band going on, and we want to make sure we can get there. You've asked, since I've known you, for 2,000 people to hear a message. You've talked about how the higher consciousness is together, and then you gave me about an hour lesson, we'll say as a lecture lesson, and I had to keep looking up all these things, and it was electrical engineering, and you're like, that's why, because one person can't hold the energy. It's a whole nother thing. And it made sense when you kind of went through that. You've talked about teas, if they're done right, that a visible blue light is in the middle, and that sounds super mystical and very, because I said that if you would just, play the traditional Native American elder part and you dress up, we would be so much more successful. But I think one of the things that you've said is that, your elders asked you to go with nothing, not sweetgrass, not any, just as you are. That was one of the things they said, please share this with the non-natives for the first time ever, and bring nothing, just share these teachings. And that's what you've been doing. And so I forget where I was going. I lost my own train of thought. Shoot. So, okay, with the teas and the Halifax event, 2,000 people hear message. Now I got it. Okay. So you said there would be a visible blue light in the middle. That sounds mystical, but then in part of that lesson, you were having me research all these things, and I kept researching them. And then it got to the point where it said the thing, the technology or whatever it was, because I'm not very intelligent with electrical engineering, that makes the blue light behind a TV. And then you're like, the human body has all of those things. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it is kind of mystical, but you're able to explain it in a way from an engineering point of view, which sounds really incredible. And so I'm so curious, what would happen if we had 2,000 people gathered? Why is that so important? And are you able to share anything to get that kind of, that's something that I've wanted to see happen from the beginning. What would you share there? What would happen if we could actually get 2,000 people to hear a message in person? Why is it so important to be there in person?
Well, a good thing to research on the Fatima children. It's Catholic. It goes into Catholic. Find out what happened with 5,000 or 10,000 people in an organization that believes in one thing.
The Fatima children?
Fatima. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's in Italy or England or somewhere in there. Because that was the Catholic faith declares that as a miracle that they had contact. So in the regular looking at the body itself, that when we used to do studies on it, that we are electrical beings, that we have magnetic fields, coils inside of us. Our blood is iron, so it's a conductor. And but we figure too that there's an energy source that we should be able to see it. We can't see our energy source with our own eyes most of the time. It's our aura around you. Like the aura has the earth. The earth is living, it's moving, it's has a heart and everything else. It's bigger. We can measure the electrical field by a compass, where the compass is. When the sun has a plasmic discharge from it, our aura protects us from those dangerous ways and puts them in, slows them down and puts them into North and South Pole. And we see them visibly as the Northern Lights. And way back when, thousands of years ago, that the Native Americans thought that was part of the Creator's hand in what spirit was, and they used to see visions and things in the Northern Lights. The same with the human body. We have a magnetic field that's north and south. We have a current inside of us. We have a heat processor. We have an electrical processor that's part of our blood. And depending on what our current is, if we're negative or positive, when you say that, you say, what's negative? Depends on if you're north or south. It depends if one's north or one's south. That's kind of how that's measured. And we have different frequencies to our blood, different ways like that. You would think we'd have frequencies, all one frequency, wouldn't you? And that frequency could match from up to a rainbow to thousands of a frequency to 1 billionth of a frequency. But everybody has a different frequency, no matter you're from a family member, and like everybody, 7 billion of us have a different frequency. It's hard to measure because we don't have instruments that sensitive yet. But the human body, you put 3 together. If you put 2 together, there's a difference. Two together is more of a binary. It's more of a binding of 2 energies. 3 together, it's more of a circulation of the energy. You have your north and south will be north and south. And in between, that will circulate around the 3 people. And in that 3 people would be some sort of current that you can measure. We've measured it time after time. We measure it 1 person, 2 people, 3 people. You don't get circulation when you have 2 people. You have a transfer back and forth. There's no circulation. But you put the 3rd person in there, there's some sort of circulation information going on. The human body itself, the magnetic field around it, we can detect that magnetic field 16 feet out. That means 16 from the center of your body, not the heart. Remember, everybody wants to go from the heart. It's not the heart. Remember, the heart is off center. Why is the heart off center for? The inner part of it, from the top of the head right down to this, almost through this, live past the spinal cord, passes the heart. And it comes to the tailbone, part of this tailbone, the groin, in the groin, and it looks like an apple. That field is detectable 16 feet out, 16 feet up, 16 feet down. So any electrical outlet out there or anything that's making an electrical signal is informational. It has information stored in it. What that information is could be a radio signal, your cell phone. It has 4 different frequencies to it to transfer the information back and forth to another phone, to relay, to say hello to somebody. That has a frequency, that has a magnetic field that's in that, and it generates a magnetic field to your phone. Your phone picks it up, the processor picks it up, turns it into information that you can read. The human body is the same way, but we think we can read it. You know, oh yeah, love. Yes, we can identify some of those, but most of those that we can't identify what those signals are. It could be a signal from Vega triggering a DNA change in you. Can I prove that? No, I can't prove that. That's more of a theory. But we are affected by our universe, our galaxy, the black hole that's in the center of our universe, the Milky Way. We are affected by the whole system of the stars. Some way, some frequency, something's way beyond our comprehension. And we want to try to comprehend it. It's like, can you comprehend a computer? If you can comprehend a computer, you can build it. And then there's somebody out there that has small information of a computer. I put one together. Can somebody put one together, soldering and just by memory? Possibly. I can do that a little bit. I can build a computer, but I can't build all the different processors and all the information that comes through it. I can build the receiver, but the information, no. And again, the body itself, when there's two people, there's more of a transfer of information back and forth. Three people, there's a circulation. Because when you have a circulation, people call it a vortex, something that spins, and this spins counterclockwise in the other way. So there's something going on there. We researched, we kind of lost the research after, but there's some sort of information going on there electrically. You want to call it, you have to figure out what spirit is, and you know, spirit is something that we don't really can comprehend and understand. We can a little bit, we can, but that, spirit is part of the electrical system that's harder to measure. So spiritually, there's something that's going on with those three people. There's information going on. We can figure out what some of that information going on if we're in the same community. We can talk the same language. You add, and again, you have to think of threes. Now, you think of 3, 6, 9. So you have, again, probably with the numbers that you think about, but it's dealing with the three. So the human body itself, in the electrical system in the body, you have 2 points of energy. Just like your car has 2 points of energy to it, where it goes back and where it goes front. DC is direct current, AC is alternating current. So when you have 2 people, that's DC. When you have 3 people, that's AC. AC, if you understand what Tesla and the guy that invented the light bulb, I know who he is, tip my tongue. Edison. They had a war between DC and AC. You know, I think DC was the safest current because it went one direction. So if you touched it, it wouldn't kill you. AC is alternating current. So if it touches you, it grounds you out and it gives you the full charge. And they tried to prove AC was dangerous. They electrocuted an elephant in front of a bunch of people and different like that. But it's the best way to send information if you're going to send it. So the 3 people are information. The 2 people is negative and positive. That makes the battery. We have a inside, we'll get into more of the physics part of it. Inside, because there's negative and positive, that means there's a pathway. There has to be a pathway to either one. So that pathway is the circulation. We don't know, as a physicist and as electric engineer, we don't know where most of that energy goes. We can measure it with an instrument, but we can't detect if that's going into time or out of time in a second. So then we talk about the light sprint, what's going on. So that energy in the human body is being in space as an entity, as we are, but it's doing something that we can't, it defies physics. It's going in and out somewhere else and coming back, going in and out somewhere else. And I looked online and read a lot of books about that and interface time. Remember, time is a concept. It's not a structure thing that we're looking at. Part of that phasing in and out of that time, we don't know where we go. If we measure time as 24 hours, that time we measure is a 4 billionth of a second. So 4 billion second, you're here, you're not here, you're here, you're not here, you're here, you're not here. But we don't see that. We see it as one continuous picture like we're seeing here. Now, there's thousands of books written about that phenomena. And of course, you can put conjecture with that, what it is. As a scientist, I know that we are electrical beings, spiritual electrical beings, but I don't know exactly how that presents us being here at this very second. I can't tell you why we're here this very second, or where you go. it could be a dual reality that you are in another world or another dimension or something. You can put theories to that. I have. So that one individual to be consciousness in this world is to be able to be conscious of what's going on in your universe. In the Copper Scrolls, it says that where that blue light that's inside of you, that magnetic field is the center of that universe or that blue light. So if you measure that blue light that's inside you, that is the north and south of where that comes in to be. Smaller than small. That's really hard to explain what that is. And when that goes into that, it goes in and out. In the Copper Scrolls, it says that we are spiritual star beings. That means that we are a universe or galaxy that has all this information, all this things that's out there. But for some reason that we are here in this present as humans, we don't use all our consciousness for thinking. As humans, to be in this consciousness now, to see you, to talk to you. But our unawareness of what spirit is that blue light inside of us. That information you have all the answers up there, but we're looking for it now. But by looking for it, you look for another star. Do you hear this? Do you look for another star? You look for a binary star that will orbit you. And that binary star changes information. Only with that information that could be detected in a vortex is put the third star in there. And you got to try little star that orbits and actually forms an energy source, like a generator, like your motor. And in the center of that motor, supernova, you can see a bright light. Before the bright light, it's blue. And that blue light that's inside of you are the stardust. You are the universe. You are part of that. But as we're flesh people, but if we are that intelligent, that we can be flesh beings here for a certain amount of time, because in our systems, in our system, electrical systems, in the body itself, we have a program that it has a timer in it, and that timer says everything goes off midnight, December 12th, 2029. It turns off. Then your source goes back to that blue, whatever that blue is. And I know a little bit about it. I've talked about seminars about this, but that light that's blue, we have a misconception what that is. We think it's an orb that floats around. It's orbs from it, but it's not the blue light. We see the aurora around the body itself. Sometimes that makes little blue lights. Sometimes if it hits a 90-degree field. So putting three of those together, you come up with a spiritual dynamo, I guess. And it doesn't need feathers, it doesn't need crystals, it doesn't need smudge, it just needs to be together, functioning. And no matter who you on this earth, you can fit in. 3, 6, 9, 13, it goes on and on and on. And when you're at up to hundreds of thousands, that information, that vortex in that T forms an informational barrier that we can take. And we have people are being trained now to take some of that information out of there and put into something that we can read. And that's the most awesome thing, because that is information from spirit. Well, we don't have to channel, because usually channeling it doesn't work the way it's supposed to be working. But this is more of a community spiritual channel that we can actually write down that information that we can use. If we are looking for fusion, we have just have the right amount of people and ask the right questions, and we can get what fusion is. If we can have fusion, the Copper Scroll says that. That's why that Copper Scroll is useless to anybody out there, because if you're one individual trying to read this thing, like I said, you'd be better off get a Mechanica H and put your hand on top of it and tell who wrote it, and tell every letter, and tell what the ink is made of, the paper, where the paper's from, and what tree it's from, and who wrote it. That's the information in the Copper Scrolls. No one individual can read. I can't read it. I can translate some of the things, but I can't read it without you guys. making that T in there, making that transformational vortex in there. That's the only way I can read it. I can give you, I can give you the letters, but it won't make sense to you. I can give you the vibrational frequency. It still won't make sense unless we assemble. And the ultimate is 2,000 people in one. There's a what they call frequency jam, and what a jam is that we're jammed to your frequency. We're jammed, and we keep on thinking we know it, but we don't. Once you get to 3, or you ask anybody that's been in teas for a while, that and a couple of the teas that we've done earlier, we did see the blue light in the middle, and it freaked people out because they thought it was some sort of trick or something. But the blue light assembled right there. But it was awesome. So, a lot of technical, spiritual stuff.
Holy smokes. Yeah, that's really fascinating, and I would love to experience that. So I hope that Halifax we reschedule for May 30th, and hope it would be amazing to have 2,000 people. I'd be super curious about what would happen and what would transpire. I wanted to ask, is a great question that came through, is what is the acronym for ARC?
That's that's cool. Yeah, you know, I was giving a talk to somebody, and we had somebody that's spiritual. She was a Christian, and she asked me, says, I know you're not a Christian. I said, well, like I said, we're not all wrong here. We're not all wrong. We have partial truths, but we keep on thinking we have the truth. But we have this greatest thing here, and the greatest thing here, but we won't put those together. We won't put that as one. We say, this is the greatest thing, you're wrong. Or this is the greatest thing, you're wrong. So, and I said, well, let's do the math. Let's do the math. In your book, what does it? Give me the dimensions of the vessel that book says. And she gave me vessels. Says, all right. Says, how many critters are on this earth? And you can find this online. So in order to have a vessel that big, you would have to have, and I've done the math, and I will make sure that I was right about this. You have to have a vessel 20 miles across, 5,000 miles long, to house every animal on this earth, 2 by 2. That's a lot. You got to be able to have water. You got to have food. You got to put the waste somewhere. That's a lot of poop to clean up. So thinking what reality is and not what reality is, what we believe in, is that acronym. I'm not going to tell you the acronyms. Look it up. This is in the Star Teachings. And if I gave you the answer, then you'd be satisfied. And I don't want you satisfied. I want you to be able to do your own research and find out what's going on out there. And people have claimed to found the ark. Great, bring it forward, and let's look at it. And I'm seeing the one Mount Ararat and all the different ones and things like that. If they bring me the ark, I can tell you where Atlantis is, and you can find it on Google Earth. So.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to ask you another one. I think we're probably close to wrapping up. It's been quite a while, but is there significance to ringing in the ears?
Yes, a lot of it is that people don't realize what tendonitis is. Tendonitis is the gripping of the teeth, of the neck. We've been seeing a lot more of it if you're texting or on the computer, because your body is used to being straight, and somebody said, why are you ringing a lot? And I said, how long are you on the computer? He says, well, I'm on there every day. You change that slight angle of the body itself. It's going to put stress in the body. And I've been on playing with the phone sometimes, and I find myself like this. Then an hour later, I get ringing in the ears. If you have braces, that has a lot to do with it. If you have something in your spinal cord that's metal, it will do a feedback from the ears. Part of the horseshoe You got a little iron particle down there that will vibrate with a, uh, a fluorescent light or thing like that. So there's a lot of things that could say what it is. Um, you know, especially with metal teeth. I have metal teeth, and I get some buzzing in my ears sometimes because it's picking up electrical signal, or I'm close to a magnetic signal.
Hmm. All right. Thanks for that. I think that we've been going for a while. I want to ask you, is there anything else that you want to touch on? I'll stay here for as long as you want to speak, but I also want to be cognizant of your time. I don't know what you have going on today. Is it? Is there anything that I should ask you? Anything that we should cover?
Um, this pandemic will pass, and don't forget to stay. Don't forget that if you're afraid, you're afraid. But we've got calmer waters coming. That's when we want to make a difference in this world. Is that I think it's important that we need to assemble. And 2,000 people would be awesome in Halifax. How important is this? I think it's very important. If we are looking for an answer, if we're looking for something out there. We want to speak with the aliens. Come to Halifax. That translation is not what you think it is. There's a couple of messages already out there through translation through what the aliens have said. And I don't like saying aliens. Now, if you have a visitor to your house, you call them aliens. What do you call them? I would call them a community. I would call them friends. It's like, but alien sounds so good. Sounds so Star Trekky, doesn't it? But we do that. It's like, yes, you're a life form in this world. So's elephants, so's ticks. Why we are so important. We are carnivores in this world. We eat cows, we eat chickens, we eat all the different things. And if you're a vegetarian, you're not going to get out of this. You eat plants. Everything on this planet is life. If we eat it, we have to take that energy. A plant just doesn't scream when we kill it. It does make a noise. If you look at any of the research out there, plants do make noises. They are living beings, just like that deserve life is like anything else. What does it mean? We have to stop eating? No, it's being aware of these things, And we try. Uh, we try to eat health food. Health food is more expensive than regular food. Somebody market that now. You can go into a health food store and buy something possibly healthy, but it's like we have changed everything. If you're going to be healthy, be spiritually healthy. Don't believe everything you hear. Do your research. Do 3 acts of kindness every day and go out of your way to do it. Don't tell anybody. Give something away. And that could be money or something like that. If you're so attached to something, just give it away. I think that's the hardest thing to do because we're attached to this phone. So, yeah.
Those are all great suggestions. Is there anything else that you want to cover? You want to keep going?
Um, don't bury this. I'm not going to be here forever. If we do believe any of this, do your research, of course. Come hear the message that was made for 2,000 people. If I told you right now, it would not make sense to you. Only in that energy field, in that vortex of 2,000 people would be that energy of listening correctly. You can go on.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and everything that you shared. I definitely want to hear that message, understanding a little bit about who you are and your background, and watching how much dedication you've had to sharing these things is truly extraordinary. The ability you've had to travel and actually execute with such so little help, with almost no finances, and just pure commitment is truly extraordinary. So thank you for everything that you do. I invite people who are listening to this to watch other interviews with David, to share the work, to do something, to help out if you can. In the 2 years I've been a part of it, there's been very little help. And thank you for everybody who has done something. The Star Teachings community out there, there are some incredible people who have helped and they've done what they've can, and I appreciate those people. And they have helped tremendously. And if there were more people just doing a little bit and we work together, it would make it a lot easier. But there's a few people carrying a lot of weight, and it makes it challenging. And you've done some extraordinary work, so just thank you for your commitment. When I traveled to your home and the mountain that you grew up on, I think when you get frustrated, you're like, I could just go home. But you haven't, and you've stayed, and it's been I've learned a lot, and I think that you've helped a lot of people. I would love to see how far this goes. I would love to see what would happen if people started to put in a little bit more um, time and effort, because you've always said that your door is always open. And I've talked to I've pretty much everyone I've ever spoken to, I've told about you. And I was like, check this out, like, see if he's for real, like, can you please, check it out. He says this resonator thing can, like, 4 foot tall one will power your house for pretty much ever. I was like, we should probably check that out, and if he's baloney, let me know, then I can stop podcasting him. but it's all worked so far, and we just need a little bit of help and a little bit of community, and seeing how the teas work for people and how it's helped people has been really cool. And what else? Um, I don't know what else. Just super grateful that you're still here teaching. And I look forward to seeing everybody in Halifax. I really hope that the community can create 2,000 people in person. And one of the things that's been challenging is just getting people to show up. When I said the door is always open, people don't come to see you. They don't come in person. They look, and then they're in their world, and it's too hard for them to change their world, whatever they're doing in the world, to come do something to get off their butts, as you said. They don't. And so it's harder to further the teachings and understandings and do the research. And when I came in person, it was interesting, and I learned more. And doing that and learning in person and watching the talks and learning from the community, that's how I was able to piece a lot of this together. And it certainly changed the direction of my life and where it's going. And I think it was for the better. Sometimes you're more confusing. You call you Mr. Miyagi because I end up leaving more friggin' confused. So I think that this is important. And I know there's a lot more here. And what would you suggest for people who are listening, who are watching, and they might want to help? What would you suggest to them?
Well, I think part of my philosophy is I ask for nothing. Um, but sometimes it's hard to put gas in the car with nothing. But I think that to preserve what spirit's left of it, and to understand what spirit is, I talk to Native communities, but I don't get invited to Native communities a lot. And I'm putting that invitation out there. I would like to come to all the Native communities and circles and gatherings and things like that, and share these words of the Star Teaching, because this is where the Star Teaching came from, is the Native people. We are looking, but we have stopped looking as natives of what that is, that invite me to your reserve and to your place. Now I will come and speak. I got invited very few, and I think the natives are the peacemakers of this earth, that they should be heard. And please invite me. I will come. There's a lot of information here for you that I don't put on this machine. But I have to be invited to go. And we have prayed for thousands of years to get this information, and we don't know what that message looks like. There's more. There's more. There's beyond the drum and the feather. There's more to the natives that I want to give back to them. They rightfully own, but I have to be invited. We have a lot of beautiful people that start teachings that are stepping forward. Thank you. I want to thank you. I know you guys are watching. Thank you. Thank you for putting that trust in me and these teachings to go out to the communities and share these teachings. And look them up. I mean, thank you. They have hundreds of volunteers that are ready to just share these teachings. And I can't thank you enough. I wish I could sit with and have tea with every one of you. But thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the board. Thank you to the council. Thank you to the community, the T's. Thank you. Thank you. I can't thank you enough. Yeah, I know that some of the times that in the teachings that the teachings seem so far in distance, but we have walked that distance. We are here. We're here to be able to share this. And thank you, Matthew, as a friend. Thank you for believing in this person and to have come on your beautiful podcast. I want to come and see the baby and then see you again and have a cup of tea with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to thank my beautiful wife. Um, uh, I talk and get all the glory and things like that, but she's in the background all the time on that machine, typing and looking to share and how to bring these starts. I can't thank her enough. She's the wind beneath my wings. She holds me up. Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you too. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'll thank the community as well. Thank the board. Thank every volunteer who's even contributed one thing. Thanks the people who've shared. When they do try, it helps immensely. And just anyone, because a lot of people have said, hey, I'd like to help. And then they don't follow through. And that's okay. That's totally fine. They don't have to. But those who do help, it really helps a lot. And so if you want to support, if you want to help, we could use a lot of help. And it would make things easier if there was a lot of us doing a little bit. And so those of you who have done anything, you have my gratitude and appreciation for sure. And would love to see more community. I would love more conversations about kindness and compassion. I would love more conversations around just collaboration and community and all of the teachings that are in the STAR teachings. You've said that there are 27, and the ones that I know are, kindness, compassion, happiness, share what you know. And they're, you you could say it and you could list them all, but to live them, and just even the first few, kindness, compassion, happiness, can be challenging. And I've learned so much more from the community in the T's and from everyone's experiences rather than my own. And everyone's honored in that way. If we're doing it right, sometimes ego gets in the way and we stumble, but we try to support each other and come back to the kindness, compassion part and take another step forward. But it's always better if we can do it together. And so, thank you. And thank you, Jacqueline, too, because in the time that I've done this, watching you guys work extraordinarily hard, unlike anything I've ever seen for such a duration of time, is incredibly impressive with very little resources. Just to get to places and to do the teachings for free is an extraordinary amount of work, of planning, of time, of money. And I don't know how we did it when I was in Maine and it got you around. And I don't know how, the London thing happened. I don't know how it got done, but it does happen. And so, your commitment is something that I admire and appreciate. And that's it. So I'll just say that. And thanks everybody for watching. If they want to
Thank
help,
you.
please go to Facebook. There's Star Teachings. There's Ancient Echoes. If you want to contribute to David, he's got a Patreon that would help. So go see his Patreon. It'll be all linked up somewhere, but support would be great. And please get your butt to Halifax if you can, May 30th. If we can get this event for 2,000 people, hopefully that can be a spark of some of these teachings. 20,000 years old, as I understand it, which is truly fascinating. If you look up Native American history, nobody knows what's going on really. There's not good information out there. So you're one of the people, from the horse's mouth. Same with Clifford Mahooty, as he says it's a 20,000 year history. And so I'm completely intrigued with that. And so I hope we can help you to continue to share and build a community and take this forward. So would you like to close with anything else?
I think if I would have lived this long, I would have took care of myself. But no, I just like to thank everybody. I know that there's a lot of questions. I see a lot of questions going on there, and I try to answer as much as I can. I just said, but have fun. I know that that's a lot of things to scare there. Happiness will come through. So, thank you.
Well, thank you, David. I think it's time that we will officially end it because I can hear my little one making a joyful noise now. So I'll go up and I'll make one right back at her, and I'll go outside, even though they say be afraid of outside, but I'm not so afraid of it right now. So I'm going to go out in nature and water and enjoy. So thank you for everything that you do. Please, if you're listening to this and you can support with a share, support on Patreon, support on Ancient Echoes or Star Teachings, get involved, ask a teacher, and even a little bit goes a long way. So, you know, you don't have to do what you can't do, you do what you can. And we appreciate everybody who has done what they could, and just huge gratitude for getting us here. So thank you a million times, and I look forward to communicating with you again. Cool. Peace. Bye, guys.